Good evening, everybody. Good evening, good evening, good evening. It is Wednesday evening and I am Annie Bennett and I am live in the Home Baking Business Community UK and also on my Facebook page, Annie Bennett Business, and in the Home Baking Professional Society. So welcome to everybody. I can see I've got a few people on, so do say hello, do pop something in the comments. Let me know you're watching. It's good to have you here. I wasn't around last week. I was going to do a live last week. I was going to do a demo last week, but things got a bit hectic in the kitchen. So I decided to postpone that. I will do a cake board covering demo at some point. I might even just sort of record it and then pop it on my YouTube channel for you, for anyone that would like to know a little bit about that. But yeah, last week was a bit hectic, here, there and everywhere last week. But I'm here this evening. What I'm talking about this evening is PR. A little bit about the importance of PR, but mainly the things that you need to do to get a good bit of PR. Now, I decided when I was working out my year's strategy at the beginning of the year or the end of last year, I decided that it was time for me to get going with a bit of PR. I'd seen lots of other people in my business network, appearing in various publications and on radios and in podcasts and all sorts of things. And up until then, I'd sort of beavered away quietly in my business, not really thinking it was that important, to get featured in magazines and whatnot, and sort of shying away from it really a little. But at the end of the year, I made the decision that actually perhaps it was about time that I should do it, because I'd done a lot, I'd seen a lot, had a lot to talk about, and so I decided to do it. So this evening I should be telling you about what I did to get some PR, and my 5 main things about it, 5 main points when trying to get PR for yourself. If you've got any questions, by the way, do pop them in as you're watching. I'm more than happy to try and answer questions. If you have any, or just say hello. As always, I have written a blog that goes with this, and the link will pop up in the Home Baking Business Community around 8 o'clock. I think I scheduled it for that, and I'll pop it up in various other places tomorrow. And there are various links in there that, as I go on this evening, you will you'll realize what the links are, because I'm going to tell you about somebody who helped me with my PR. So so at the beginning of the year, I decided that I needed to get a little bit more PR going. I wanted to spread my word a little bit further, if you like. And as with all things business, because I'd not grown up in a business environment, a self-employed business environment, I knew absolutely nothing about getting PR. Absolutely nothing. Well, I was teaching for 30 years. We didn't really deal with PR then, not really. So I knew absolutely nothing about it and how to go about it. But luckily in my business network, I knew of someone who was excellent at it. And she secured a lot of PR for lots of people. I could see, lots of people popping up, in magazines and in newspapers and on TV and all sorts of things. And so I thought, right, well, let's learn about it. And it just so happened that at the beginning of the year, she was doing a course. Her name is Nicola, by the way, Nicola Rowley. And she was a journalist, and she's done all sorts of work in various media. She's done, TV and radio and newspapers and all sorts of things. So she knows a lot about it, and she knows a lot of people as well in the industry. So she was the perfect person sort of connect with. So I did a course with her, and I made a point of sort of learning all about what it's all about, what this PR thing is all about. And then I did some other work with her, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But basically, it was very successful. And in the last couple of weeks, some of you might have seen, I've been featured in Hello Online, and then The Sun picked that up and they've featured it. And I've also done an interview on BBC Local Radio as well. So it's been sort of quite successful 6 months in terms of, getting the PR. And I've got more to come. There's more in the pipeline as well that are going to come out in the next few months too. So I'm going to tell you what Nicola told me, what there's 5 sort of main messages with PR. And this is, these are what I've learned. So the first one that Nicola talks about a lot is knowing what your story is. Basically, journalists aren't interested in anything that you're selling. They're not interested that you sell something. So the fact that I make wedding cakes, would be neither here nor there to a journalist. What they are interested in is a story, is, a story that other people are going to be interested in. So some kind of angle on what you do. So when I first started working with Nicola, I think I had a sort of half, 3/4 of an hour chat with her where I told her about everything that was going on and everything that I'd done. And from that, she then picked out the kinds of things that journalists would be interested in. So if you're looking to get PR, the first thing you've got to really do is sit down and think about what your story is. So it might be that you just sort of brainstorm on paper everything that you've done and all the kind of angles that you might be coming from. So, for example, if you started your home baking business, what were the circumstances of that? Did you do it alongside a full-time job for a while? Did you sacrifice anything? Did you give up things so that you could run your business? Did you come across people that tried to stop what you were doing? It could be that family and friends were supportive or weren't supportive. All these kind of things go into telling your story. Where is it that you work? Nicola often tells the story of how she was chatting to one of her clients who just said, by the by, that she worked in a caravan on her front drive. And so Nicola hooked into that immediately. And then the magazine article that came out a few months later was, I run my business from a caravan on my drive, because it's the kind of unusual thing that, that journalists aren't going to see every day. That's the kind of hook that got her in there. So think about, what it is you've done, the circumstances of your business, how you've run it, anything unusual or slightly quirky that runs alongside it. Nicola picked up almost immediately on the fact that I'm a soprano. I'm a trained soprano. Some of you might know that. And she was immediately, yes, that's one of the angles you've got to have. Trained soprano making wedding cakes is gold. So I'm really working on that pitching that angle to journalists now. So, and also it's to do with any kind of interests that you have. Think about the sort of journalist's year and seasonal things. So not only things like, autumn, Halloween, Christmas, Easter, those kind of things, Mother's Day, Father's Day. Journalists often pick up, mum's stories, dad's stories, Christmas stories, but also things like the various weeks and months. There's been Pride Month last month, Carers Week, Black History Month, all sorts of, different events that journalists like to pick up on. So if you have any story within any of those, that's the kind of thing that you can pitch to journalists as well. But the thing is with those is to get in early. I've started seeing requests from journalists to do with autumn and Christmas already. They want to get their things sorted, particularly the monthly magazines. They want to get things sorted quite early. So, so for example, if you run a home baking business, but you're also a carer for someone in your family, that's a story that a journalist would hook into, for example. So number one is know your story. Get your story sorted out. Even if you think it's sort of ordinary and possibly not what people would listen to or want to read, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. Look at some of the magazines, and I'll tell you which ones to look at in a minute. But look at the kinds of stories that you see in there. It's not just people advertising their things and selling things. I make cakes. So what? Look at the story behind that. So that's number one. Number two is know your ideal client. Now, I've talked about ideal clients before. Ideal client is vital in business, knowing who that is. Who are you aiming your product at mainly? Okay, it's not to say that you don't sell it to anyone else, but who are you aiming it at mainly? Because once you know who that is, you then know where you want your PR to happen. Okay, so for example, I'm a wedding cake baker, so a feature in Hello is perfect for me because that's where a lot of potential brides and couples particularly brides, might be looking. There'd be no point in me pitching for a magazine aimed at men or at pensioners, People's Friend or anything like that, because that would be pointless. No one who would want my services would be reading those magazines. Okay. And in terms of, my business, my training that I do, I'm really aiming for, people who are a bit like me, with a family. I used to have young children. They're grown up now, but I've got a family. I used to have a job. I had a hobby that I wanted to turn into a business. So magazines like Prima and Woman and Woman and Home, those types of magazines are read by the type of person that would be interested in what I do. So knowing your ideal client leads you then to know where you want your PR to be. The chances are with bakers that you're going to want to go local as well. So your ideal client is someone local who might well be looking at a local magazine or a local website. So have a look at the kinds of places that the person that buys from you would be looking and go there. Okay, so knowing your ideal client, I have done a live and a blog on that. If you go to the blog, there's a link to it, and on my YouTube channel, the live that I did explains ideal client a little bit more. But that really helps you to focus where it is you want your PR to be. And then number three in my five, leads on from number two, in that once you know, or once you've thought which publications it is you're aiming at, you've then got to get to know those publications. There would be no point in me pitching to a magazine that I'd never read, never picked up. So, if you're thinking perhaps of local newspapers, if you've never, I never touch local newspapers until about 2 months ago when I needed to. But if you're not someone that goes to local newspapers, buy a few, go onto their online space, see what kind of things they publish. So do they have like a lifestyle section where your story might be interesting? Do they have local businesses section where your story might be interesting? What kind of, articles and sections do they have that you could tap into? And it's the same with national. So in the various magazines that I'm looking at now, I know that they have features on, women who've started up businesses, that kind of thing. So that is quite a good fit for me, and for most of you that are listening and watching. People starting businesses. If you can see anything in your local newspapers that focus in on that, then that's a good thing. That's a good thing to look at. And of course, once you know the publication, once you start to get in contact with them, you can then talk about that publication as if from a more knowledgeable point of view. This will be good for your lifestyle section, that kind of thing. And then my fourth thing is, again, leading on from number 3. Once you've found your publication or where it is you want the PR, find the person who is in, who edits it or who produces it or who is in charge of it. And find a name, find an email box for that particular person. Because just sending info at, I don't know, Prima Magazine or info at Sussex newspapers isn't really going to get you very far, because it'll be hidden, it'll be swamped by thousands and thousands of other emails. What you want to do is find out who it is that is in charge of the bit you want to be in. So the lifestyle editor, the business editor, the whatever it is, find them. And you joined that Nadal one. I don't follow the tennis, I'm afraid. I was actually watching the Boris Johnson thing play out. But anyway, nice to see you here, my lovely. So yes, so find a name, find who it is. This is one of the things I think that got me my BBC interview, because I went into their website and I actually found out who the producers of the shows were. And I found that, the show that I eventually had an interview on was one that had lunchtime guests talking about themselves. And I thought, that is perfect. That is perfect for me. And so I found who the producer was, sent an email directly to them. And it took a while for them to get back to me, but eventually they did. So that was a great result. If I'd just sent it to info at Radio Sussex, it would have got lost. No one would have seen it. So find out who it is you are wanting to aim at and email them, and be a little bit persistent. I think for the radio one, I think I might have emailed a couple of times. And if you find that one person doesn't answer, find someone else in that publication that you can. So you need to be a bit persistent. And sometimes they don't come back to you immediately because they're working on things. And it might be that you find, this is what Nicola says as well, you find that sort of 2 months later, they suddenly pop up and say, oh, we're really interested in this, because they've been working on other things and now they're looking for the next thing that they're working on. Okay, so don't be despondent if you don't hear back from people. You've got to be persistent. That's what I'm always saying, isn't it? You've got to be determined, you've got to be resilient, and you've got to persevere. And that really, really matters with getting PR. Okay, so that's number 4, getting the right person, contacting the right person. And the 5th one, the last one for now, I could have gone on and done 10, but I thought I'd keep it to 5. The 5th one, and Nicola really stresses this, is get some decent photos done. Not perhaps so important if all you're wanting to do is radio. But if you're wanting newspapers, magazines, website features, you're going to need some decent photos. Publications are more impressed by professional photos if you just try and sort of send a dodgy selfie, and I say dodgy because all my selfies are dodgy. It was slightly blurry at an angle, that kind of thing. It's not gonna impress as much as if you've got a set of really good photos. And that's what I did in February. That was part of my year's plan, to get some really good photographs done. And I've got a whole load of them now. I'm going to probably have more either at the end of the year or at the beginning of next year. But they have really held me in good stead because they look so professional. And I send those off to journalists, and Nicola's impressed by them as well. If you've got the photos ready for them to use, then that's half their job done. I don't think, I think gone are the days where, journalists will be sent out to interview you with a photographer on hand. I don't think that really happens. You have to do a lot of it yourself. And it's worth investing. I had to invest a bit of money in this to get them done. But what they've brought me, is invaluable. It's been, worth the money 10 times over. Okay. So those are my 5 things. So let's just remember what they are. So first of all, know your story. What angle is it? I mean, you might have more than one. What angle is it that you're coming from? Secondly, know your ideal client. Know where you're aiming your PR at. Thirdly, get to know the publications that are ideal for you. Okay, and aim high as well. Go national. Don't just stay local. If you've got, a good story that a journalist would run, you lose absolutely nothing by contacting nationals as well. Know the publications, get to know them, get to know the features they have, and a feel for them, so you can feel how you would fit in, and then find the person, find a name, find an email for a particular person that you're going to contact. Okay, and fifthly, get some decent photographs done because they are worth their weight in gold. So it was doing all these things that got me the publicity that I've just got over the last few weeks. I learned from Nicola. I took some shortcuts in that I did a course with her in which she taught me all these things and more, gave me templates for things. So the email that I sent to the BBC was one of her templates, where she did a suggested layout and what you say and how you say it. I mean, all these things you can find out, but I just did the shortcut and did it more quickly. And then another shortcut that I took was Nicola arranges a evenings where she invites 6 journalists to a hotel, and then she gets some of her clients go along, or no, let's put it the other way around. Her clients, me being one of them, pay her to attend and talk to the journalist. So it's sort of like a shortcut because it's something that you could do yourself. So you find the journalist, you email the journalist, you get to know the journalist, you have a conversation with the journalist, and then eventually, hopefully something will happen if your story is strong enough. But I took a bit of a shortcut. Nicola knew I had a strong story, a couple of strong angles. And so she was really happy for me to come on this evening. And I spoke to 6 journalists throughout that evening, 4 of which have said they can definitely use me in something. Two have already, one has already definitely happened, and another 2 are in the pipeline, and another 2, and the other 3 have said, yeah, we'll use you in future when something appropriate comes up for you. So I was able to actually speak to them and talk to them about my story. and about, you know, everything I do in this group with my wedding cakes, all sorts of things. And it was through that that I got, I mean, Hello was the first one that I got. Oh, the importance of, I haven't mentioned it yet, but the importance of a website as well. It was because of my website that I got the Hello feature. The journalist that I spoke to in that evening said she'd taken a look at my website, loved my cakes, and so she passed me on to the wedding editor in Hello, who then contacted me to do that feature. And that was all through my, you know, because I've got a strong website, you know, with really good images of my cakes, and it's really, you know, clear what I do. So if you haven't got a website, then I would suggest you really seriously think about getting one, and getting it, you know, set up to really publicize yourself. So those are the steps. As I say, I took a bit of a shortcut in that I paid a fee to go straight to the journalist and talk to the journalist face to face. But it is possible to do that, you know, yourself. You know, through the longer journey of finding who they are, talking to them, contacted them. With the BBC interview, as I've already said, I used one of Nicola's templates, and I actually contacted them after the book. I don't know if some of you saw that I was in a book collaboration that came out in May, and it was that story that I went to the BBC Radio with and said, oh, I've just been part of this collaboration. This is my story. We've had a book. It was #1 on Amazon. And it was that angle that they were interested in, the book. And also, you know, my business, the chapter that I'd written in the book was sort of how I set my business up. So they asked me in the interview about that. And that was, you know, 15 minutes on lunchtime radio. So that was quite a thing to happen. It's very exciting. It was very exciting. I said too many times, but yeah, we won't go into that. I do that. So that is how I got the PR that I got. I learned about PR. I learned about how it works. I learned about how you get it. I took a few sort of shortcuts because I invested. But if you haven't got the money to invest, it's still possible to do all that. It would just take a bit longer. That's all. Now, if you're interested in connecting with Nicola, those of you that are in the membership in the Home Baking Professional Society, she's going to come into the society and do a session with us and talk to us about PR, talk to us about, you know, how to secure PR, best things to do, and she'll be answering questions. So I'm just setting that up with her. I'm just arranging dates and times with that. So those are for the members in the Home Baking Professional Society. For those of you that aren't in the society, there are still ways of sort of getting hold of Nicola. She does have a Facebook group. It's called the Communications Community. And that's her free Facebook group. So you can pop in there. I think she does a weekly live in there. And there's sort of various advice and information and things that she'll give you in there. She also has a paid membership, which is sort of stepped up a bit. She brings journalists in to talk to members and things like that. But her free group is a really good start. She also has a book. I've got about 3 copies of these for various reasons, but this book is really, really good. There's a link to it in the blog, in my blog that I've put up. The link should come up about now, actually. There's a link to it on Amazon, but it's called The Power of PR, and it's by Nicola J. Rowley. And in it, she goes through what I've talked about this evening and more. It's really, really good. You'll learn a bit about who she is and what she's done, but it also, you know, talks you through and guides you through how to get PR. So some of what I've just talked about is in there as well, because it's all come from her, because she's who I learned it from. So yeah, so there we go. So that's PR. I have learned so much over the last few months about it all, about how it all works. Some of the things have been sort of quite eye-opening about, what works, what doesn't. And I've got a really sort of positive view on journalists. I know journalists in the past have sort of had a bit of a bad press, haven't they, really? But all the ones that I've met have just been lovely and really, want to show people off to their, to their best. The journalists that I've spoken to have just been really enthusiastic about my story and, what's happened. And I'm sure that would count for so many of you as well. So many of you have got some wonderful stories to tell. So do it. Make it part of your strategy. Make it part of your thing to do to get going on PR and to get yourself out there, get yourself visible, get yourself seen, and give yourself I would say credibility, really. Because, people see, oh, she's been in this newspaper, that newspaper, this magazine. It does elevate you slightly above anyone that's, your competition, although I don't like to use that word. It does give you a bit of, oh, really, amongst your customers and your audience. So, so do it. Just do it. Do it. So yeah, so join Nicola's group, the communications community. Look at my blog, which is the link is in the Home Baking Business Community UK group now. It should have popped up by now. Any questions, just ask. I'm happy to answer anything if you've got any questions. So not that I'm an expert on PR at all, but having just had some, I might be able to answer some questions for you. All right. So I shall leave it there because it's time for my dinner and I want to go and see what's happening in Westminster. It's all very exciting. It's like soap opera. It's better than the Archers, isn't it? So have a really good week. I will see you next week. I have been very busy, Alex. Yes, I have. Thank you. Next week, what am I talking about next week? I can't remember what I'm talking about next week. I think I'm talking about next week. I'm going to do a bit of a mindset, getting people to take you seriously in your business. I know that a lot of people in the group post about, oh, my family and friends think I'm just, messing about and haven't got a business. I've got a few tips for you. So if you're struggling to get yourself being taken seriously, particularly with your friends and family, listen in next week and hopefully I've got a few tips for you to help you out with that. All right. So have a good week and I will see you next week. All right. Toodaloo.